Joining us now in the studio for the analysis of Osun State polls, the Director General of Articulated Agenda and National Coordinator, PDP National Coalition of Nigeria, Dr. Emeka Kalu, who is with us. And of course, we also have Sam, a lawyer, a political analyst. Sam Aiboni also joins us in the studios. Gentlemen, it's good to have both of you. All right. We also have Dr. O'diakpo Obire, President, Good Leadership Advocacy for Africa. He also joins us from Abuja studios. We all have three gentlemen with us. Good to have you all. I'm going to start with you, Dr. O'diakpo Obire in Abuja. Now, the current political terrain, how would you describe preparation so far? Osun Ekiti elections, a litmus test to the general elections slated for 2023 next year?
Well, thank you for having me. So far, we can see that the Osun election is it's a little bit more organized than that of the Ekiti State, because Ekiti State, the fillers we have and what we saw on the ground was some issues of credibility of the election process. But as it is in Osun State today, we have not actually got the results, the reports that there are issues of vote buying and all that, which we saw in Ekiti State. But I think there are also reports in the past few days that vote buying were taking place, though at the background. But then we've not been able to see that in the real sense of it, like it happened in Ekiti State. And also, I think the security agencies, they have a lot to do when it comes to these issues of vote buying that is giving the electoral system a bad face. You cannot have policemen and security agencies in a polling unit, and they are seeing these anomalies, they are seeing these things happening, and they are folding their hands, which simply means that they are also compromised in doing the needful and doing the job that they are supposed to do to make the process to be fair. So INEC so far, in Osun State, we have about 1,900,000 and something voters, registered voters in the state. And we have about 322 polling units or something to be covered. And if we go by what we are saying, the peacefulness in the process as at this moment, I am sure that we'll get a good outcome from the election.
Well, thank you, Dr. O'diakpo. I'm bringing it back here to the studio now with Dr. Emeka Kalu, and we're still focused on the issue of vote buying. It's apparent, but now it looks as though the techniques are now covert. What do you think about what we heard from our correspondent earlier? You know, the signs that were being given, like, take a look, I've cast my vote, this is who I voted for, I'll see you later in the agreed area to get my cash or whatever. What are your thoughts on what's happening today?
Well, thank you for having me. First of all, I will blame those part of problems to the government, because if the government have given some enabling environment for its people, things like that will not happen. If you go to international world, you'll never see people buying votes. Rather, people, give, to the campaign. They don't take away from the campaign. And that's just because of the leadership, the type of leadership that we have here. We don't have good leadership that have perpetrated this into vote buying, which is bad and bring bad things for our nation. So it is things that is being caused by the bad leadership we have in the country. But having said that, if you look at what is going on in Osun State, you will see that it is a little bit different, just like the first speaker said. Things are getting, well organized, and people are voting the way they're supposed to vote. And of course, this is going to be people voting from their conscience, even though most people are, collecting money because there is hunger in the nation, to vote. But there are still people that believe in good governance. There are still people that believe, listen, we need to do the right thing for ourselves. We don't need to keep collecting every year, 4 years, we'll collect 4,000, 5,000 naira for us to keep staying the same leadership that we have. So it's going to be a different ballgame at the end of the whole tunnel. We'll see a green light at the end of the whole tunnel. It's going to be a great exercise that is going on right now in Osun.
Interesting optimism there, Dr. Kalu. Of course, we've still got Mr. Sam Aiboni with us in the Lagos studio as well. I would still like your perspective on this. Now, the poverty is still high, inflation as well, and of course, INEC has been blamed for vote buying scenarios in Ekiti recently. Is that a fair assessment, you think? Shouldn't the government, federal or regional, share the blame as well in this scenario of vote buying, as it were?
Well, I want to take a step back before I take a swipe at the government because of the economic reality. I think we need to stop to recognize that the amendments that happened to the Electoral Act that brought e-bars and no phones in the preferential votes are working. Because now, when we speak about vote buying, I'm really excited. And it shows that INEC and the process is working a lot better. Now, the politicians don't have issues, your traditional rigging methods that we knew about, snatching of ballot boxes, impersonation and rigging are not there. Because everybody now knows that if you don't go through e-bars, you can't even get to a position to vote. So I think we need to stop for a moment and pause to say that what we have has improved and we have a better. Now we're talking about, because the politicians don't have any other options but to buy votes, because you can't rig, you can't load the ballot boxes, you can't go around the accreditation process. So I think we need to stop and mention that amendment, and that INEC has been able to deploy technology. As a lawyer, I also did on that voting today because we are voting for the NBA. And I did it from the comfort of my home on my phone. And I think that is where we ultimately will go. And I think that's ultimately where we ultimately will go with regards voting in Nigeria. So for me, I just wanted us to stop first to say that, well, the in focus today is vote buying. And vote buying is because all the other rigging methods have been plugged with the deployment of e-bars. Now, I couldn't agree more with my other panelists. The truth about it is that the only reason why somebody will take 3,000 or 4,000 naira to vote for a candidate, considering the importance of voting, is because of the economic situation. So we can't take away from that fact. I will be not as hard on INEC, because INEC has repeatedly said that, yes, there was vote buying in Ekiti. They are trying to, as much as possible institutionally, to address the issues. But like your correspondent on the ground has pointed out, this is a crime. And I don't think both the buyer and the seller will just do it in the open for you to be able to nab them. So yes, vote buying is a phenomenon that over time we will find a way to deal with and address. So I think it's the law enforcement agencies that need to find a way on how to address the issues of vote buying. But like to your question, I think the economic situation is what has allowed it, because for somebody to sell or buy a vote because of 3,000-4,000 naira just shows the state of the economy.
Very well said. Thank you so much. Now we'll go back to Dr. O'diakpo in Abuja studio. And I'd just like to ask you about your assessment of the candidates for, Osun State Governor. We have a rather lengthy list, but I'm wondering who you think are the ones to watch and who you think might also be the dark horse in this race.
Well, INEC has declared 15 candidates for this Osun State election. And if you look at them clearly, this is not about the people are not going to vote based on capacity. The people are not going to vote based on credibility of the candidate or what the candidate is bringing to the table, but they are going to vote according to popularity, and that is because we have in the past built men than institutions. People believe in what they see. People believe in what is popular. So they are going with popularity right now. Every voter in Osun State, as we speak, as they cast their vote this moment, they are not voting because the candidate's manifesto is being followed, or the party manifesto is being followed, but they are casting their vote right now, deciding the fate of the next government based on popularity and based on those who also are able to procure their votes. Because even in as much as we say that vote buying is not physically seen happening in Osun State, like your correspondent said, that people are showing their ballot paper to a group of persons that are standing at the corner. So it simply means that vote buying is also taking a center stage right now. So when you look at this is not about who is going to win the election when it comes to the real sense of it among the 15 candidates. But right now, we can see the popularities, we can see the APC candidate, we can see the PDP candidate. Then when you talk about dark horse, you can also see the SDP candidate and the Labour Party candidates. In the last gubernatorial debate, you can, if the people have to go through some normal process of looking at the capacity and looking at the manifesto or what the candidate is bringing on board, I think the results will a little bit shift. But we are not looking at that. We are looking at the popularity and what the candidates will be able to. So we cannot say right now that, okay, PDP is going to win, or APC is going to win, or there's a dark horse like Labour Party or SDP. But we can also see from what happened in the last election in 2018. And it was a fierce battle and was later won with about 482 votes at the reround. So when you look at the entire system, we are getting there, but we still have a lot to do in choosing who our leaders should be. We need to look at what they are bringing to the table. We need to look at what they can do to sustain the people economically, because nobody is talking about what they are bringing on board. We are talking about how popular these people are. You go around and you'll be hearing, I'm voting for this person, not because of this, not because of that, because he is popular. Some people will tell you PDP will win the election because the Adeleke family is popular in Osun State. People will tell you that APC will win because the governor is doing some things that is pleasing the people or whatever. But in the real sense of it, we need to start focusing on what the candidate is actually bringing to turn around the table. The state is highly indebted. Who is going to bring that economic solution that we pay these debts and also be able to do some infrastructural development in terms of education, good roads, hospitals, and all that. But I just think they are going by the way of popularity.
Dr. Emeka Kalu, let's talk about the electioneering process in Osun just before today's polls. Of course, going by what the Labour candidate said, I'd like your perspective on that. But how would you describe some challenges that happened? He was allegedly attacked as well just before the elections. His house was invaded by some thugs and negative scenarios like that. How do we overcome that?
Well, this has to do with...
just before you answer that questions, I'm sorry about that. We're seeing incumbent Governor Oyetola about to cast his votes there, and along with his wife, also doing his thing as well, civic duty. Please continue, Dr. Kalu.
Yeah, when it comes to this type of stuff that we are talking about, this is centered on insecurity of the nation, which is a paramount problem that is all over the country, not just Osun or Ekiti or any other place. And this is a deficit on the government. It's a deficit on the government because the government has not been able to do the paramount thing that we elected them for. By the way, what is the actual meaning of the government? Or what is the primary purpose of the government? To protect life and properties. If all this kind of stuff is happening to people that dwell in this nation, that means technically we don't have no government. So I will blame that part of the problem to the government, and then going to what is also happening to the individuals who are the state actors in Osun State is based on the fact that disagreement within the state. There are people is doing this one is doing this different thing, this one is doing different, this one is doing different thing. Nobody has come together to agree on something that will be workable for the state, so that they can have something that is feasible and be able to see a result-oriented election. That is what is happening. But I will tell you something. The election that is going on in Osun State, as far as I know, it has to be based on pedigree, antecedents. Osun State is looking up to someone that will deliver Osun, because I will tell you this with every utmost authority that the incumbent governor has lost it. He never did well in the state. And the people of Osun are suffering. So they're now looking for a hope, someone that will give hope to the hopeless in that state. Someone that will rebrand Osun again and kickstart Osun from what Osun is currently.
And but if I may interject, Dr. Kalu, if you remember way back in some years back that the narratives that brought in even the incumbent governor, if you remember the issues of one or two local governments that weren't accounted for, and the election had to be extended by at least a week. And that scenario seems to be there. You have the issue of one of the main contenders there being courted for votes, and which eventually brought in Dr. Oyetola as well. So in that scenarios whereby you have contending forces and so many narratives becoming where we are today, so how would you describe also the issue of godfatherism is also linked to Osun, and not just that state as well, but the Southwest General and in Nigeria?
Yeah, this has been a typical problem that has been going on in Nigeria, not just Osun State, because Nigerian politics has been centered on godfatherism. People believe that it's because of this man. If not because of this man, he cannot win elections. Well, politics is not done that way until we'll begin to emulate what is going on around the world, how people do their own politics. Then we cannot move forward, a step forward from what is seen here today in the country. We are here now all chanting and saying people are buying votes and doing this. Like I said earlier, it's a problem that is already centered in the country. And now the people itself that are concerned, okay, the people that are going to be voted for are doing everything within their own possible means to see that they scale through. And they are also using that avenue of vote buying to see that they scale through, which is absolutely wrong. Because this is bringing a bad omen for the nation and for the INEC in general. Because if you win an election via vote buying, that means it is an illegal election as far as I'm concerned. I understand that. I want to go by people voting their conscience, which is the right thing that anybody needs to do. You vote your conscience, you vote the good thing for your people. That means you are looking forward to good things to come to your place. Not because someone gives you 20,000 naira, then you go and vote someone who is in the dungeon that is going to continually put you in the dungeon every 4 years. And yet you are crying that, oh no, nothing is working in my state. It doesn't work that way. You have to do the right thing for yourself first. Forget about vote buying. Do the right thing for yourself so that you can progress. You can be progressive in your state. That's all that needs to be done for us to see a good thing in all states, not just Osun, everywhere in Nigeria needs this to work. More especially, we have an important election coming up in 2023. So we have to put all those ones in perspectives. If these things are not checkmate, that means we are in trouble. We are in very big trouble.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Kalu. Well, what you said actually was reminiscent of what we just heard from the Labour Party candidate who also said Nigeria is in trouble. And my next question actually goes to Mr. Sam Aiboni. Now, when we were speaking with Dr. O'diakpo earlier on, he mentioned that the candidate that will emerge governor, people are voting based on popularity and not necessarily capacity and credibility. And we also heard what Dr. Kalu said about people voting for, based on their conscience. I'm just wondering whose perspective you're leaning towards more at this time, based on what you're seeing and hearing.
Well, I think the sad reality is that our political debate has been reduced to how popular you are, how well you can dance, whether you are carrying an umbrella or you are carrying a broom, and who will promise to give you more money if you voted for one way or the other. That's the sad reality. Why are we there? Is it that the parties are not putting the right issues and educating the voters on the right and providing alternative choices or good choices for the electorate to pick? Is it that the electorates are not educated enough to make a choice based on how much you're going to give on popularity of people? So for me, I think the issues around why candidates are selected is deep-rooted. But I think for us, if you look at it as a democratic journey, I think we're on a journey. So I think the first, we're on the journey. So the first real issue is that we're getting to a point where votes count. And that is why the politicians have to resort to buy votes. Now, to buy votes suggests that you have a relationship with the voter. So at least you should know him, he will come back to you, and you have had a discussion. So it's very transactional. I think with subsequent elections, people will come to realize that 2,000 or 3,000 naira is not enough. What is this guy saying about? I still do not have access to education. I still do not have access to free basic health education, and these guys have gone away. So I think really we're in a process where these real questions really need to be asked. Now, I followed the Osun elections. I followed the Osun debates. If you are actually an electorate in Osun State, you really do not have very many things to go on. What were the campaign issues in Osun State? The campaign issues were very simple. The incumbent governor says, I'm the incumbent governor and I've done so well. Now, nobody's measuring that performance. Every government in Nigeria, even the APC and National, despite the statistics and everybody in Nigeria, knowing that the government has failed on all economic parameters, still is running a campaign on performance. Now, the PDP is selling hope, but the truth about it is that they are not the only person selling hope now. We have another organization which has a movement, Labour, which is also selling hope. There are other candidates on the platform that are also selling hope. So I think the first stage in the process is that votes are now counting, and next we'll now get to a situation where candidates standing for election will now have to explain clearly. And I don't know who's going to do it first. Is it the electorate that is going to first demand from the candidates to say, what is your position on free education? What is your position on health? I want to know. I have an aged mother. Will she be able to access NHIL? Where are you going to build a hospital? The hospital in our village is dilapidated. What is your policy regarding that? We have a budget of this amount. What are you doing about internally generated revenue? So until we have those kind of discussions, I don't know whether it's the candidates that will have to do it first or the electorate. But where we are in Nigeria today, I think that's just the next logical state. We'll soon find out that money will not be able to buy elections, because it's not an efficient way to wait for somebody to vote and give him money. There are too many mishaps in the process. The guy might vote for another party and collect your money, and you might not be able to get enough, replicate the transaction enough times to win the election. So buying votes is not sustainable. You understand? And for 20,000 naira for one vote, how many votes can you actually pay for 20,000 naira efficiently without running foul of the law? So for me, I think it's a good omen that the politicians' only option to remain in office is to buy votes. So I think the natural thing that's going to follow is they are going to have better campaign issues and better questions. And the parties will now have to make up their mind when they are choosing candidates to say, is it just popularity or is it just outbidding the other party? That is our strategy for winning an election. And I think that's where we are progressing to in terms of our electoral history in Nigeria.
Very good. And borrowing a little from what Mr. Aiboni said, Dr. O'diakpo Obire, Nigerians or the electorate are crucial in the electoral process of the country. So how proactive are they in denouncing or rejecting unpopular policies by government, especially when it comes to their well-being? Are they even being heard at this rate?
Starts from the political party fielding candidates. Now, if you have a system that is functional, if the political parties are functional, we will have the credible people to run for election. We will have people with visions. We will have people with ideology. We have people with capacity who will want to tell the electorate, showcase their capacity, showcase what they have to deliver when they come into government. But as it is, the electorates are helpless in one way, and at the same time, they are also part of the problems that we are facing. If you approach these people, I ran an election in 2019, and I can categorically tell you that the feelers from the society is not even still encouraging, because when you finish analyzing what you need to bring to the table to them, they also expect you, at the end of it, what did he bring for us? So these are part of the problems. As it is today, concerning the election that is going on in Osun State now, we are talking about people collecting money to vote based on that, not because of their conscience. The electorates are doing this. And why are they doing this? Is because they also have the feeling that, okay, if these people get to office, they don't actually care about us. There will not be good roads. There will not be good education. There will not be good healthcare system. The economy will still get back to them. So there is nothing to hope for in this type of setting. So they just believe that, okay, let me just collect the one that I'm seeing. But that is not helping the system. That is not helping the people. They need to wake up and say, sorry, let us go hungry for one day. We will not continue to do this. Yes, out of the 15 candidates that are standing for election today now, we have at least some of them that can do something when they get to the office. If they have the political will to turn things, they will turn things around. But if the electorates are not seeing this side of it, if all they are saying is about what gets to them, then it's a very long push and a long process.
Thank you so much, Dr. O'diakpo. Oh, no, go on. I thought you had finished speaking. Please go on.
Okay, great. One of the analysts made mention of godfatherism and all that. Yes, but that has been put into extension and pushed back into only in the political parties. The political parties, that is where they can hijack the system. That's where they can hijack the structure. So by so doing, you have to follow the leader. That is why they field some of these candidates. But when it comes to general election, I think the system is changing the entire thing right now. With the beavers that have been in the technology that have been introduced, credibility is coming into the system gradually. And if we continue in that, if INEC continue doing the right thing, I don't think things will get worse for the electorates. And I also want to draw the attention of INEC to a situation where polling units should not be cited in political parties' leaders' premises in some of the wards. That thing is happening and it's not too good, because they will also defranchise the people from voting. They will only allow those who wants to vote for their party members to go in. So, and the security agencies are there to also help that situation. So there are a whole lot that needs to also be taken care of going forward into the 2023 elections.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. O'diakpo. Now bring it back to the studio with Dr. Emeka Kalu. Now, going off of the last point of, Dr. O'diakpo, where he was mentioning some of the areas that INEC needs to, do better, I'd like to know your perspective on which areas you think INEC needs to improve upon. But let me give you a bit of a premise on this. Now, we understand that for instance, yesterday it came out that the continuous voter registration would come to an end on July 31st. INEC also basically raised his hand and said that it was not necessarily its responsibility to curb vote buying, but that falls mostly on the electorate. And we also know that the COVID-19 has spiked up in Nigeria. It's gone up by 324%. I don't recall seeing one mask when we were speaking with our correspondent. I just saw one lonely sanitizer on the table next to toilet paper, more or less. So I'm just wondering, do you think that INEC has been focusing on the minor things at the expense of the major?
Well, I know that the INEC is actually focusing just on one thing, and not the general problem that we are facing. Just like you rightly said, the COVID-19 has come back and is moving forward towards all the world, not just Nigeria, it's everywhere. And people are not taking it serious. This is one of the things, one of the measures that INEC is supposed to have put into perspective, that everyone that is coming out there to vote must have a mask. And it doesn't matter where you're coming from, because people are all congregated there. So, and there's no way you can have people of that magnitude without, infesting people around there, without having that much.
Very good, Dr. Kalu. I'm sorry. Let's talk about the nature of the emergence of these candidates themselves. Are Nigerians actually being given the best deal here, whether it's Osun State and beyond? What are your thoughts here? If you remember, when it comes to the delegates voting or selling their votes to the highest bidder in some of the elections we saw so far, the primaries, what do you make of that scenario?
Well, I think the electoral process within the parties, it leaves a lot to be desired. But I don't think it has to do with the rules or the regulations or the Electoral Act. I think it has to do with the practitioners and the members of the parties. Now, in the political process, there's a political industry, and that industry has stakeholders: INEC, security forces, party officials, party members, and in the case of party primaries, it has the group of individuals that we call the delegates. Now, the process where the delegates emerge, how they emerge, the power they have to select is immense. And you can appreciate the fact that for the major parties in Nigeria, we didn't have 5,000 or 3,000 or 2,000 members of delegates to choose. So we have a population in excess of 200 million. And at the end of the day, with all 15, 16, 17 odd parties, we're not going to have a pool of maybe 40 or 50,000 people that's going to choose who our next president will be. Now, so it begs the question of saying, is that process democratic? Now, but the rules and the laws for choosing the delegates are all supposed to be democratic. And we all understand that we run a party democracy. So really, the issue around PVCs really doesn't come to play when it comes to choosing our leaders. It's a direct choice within the party. It's a party affair. Because our constitutional democracy today says that only parties can produce candidates on the ballot. So I think, for me, I don't think it's an issue of the rules or the regulations or the law. It's the apathy of the average Nigerian not to get involved in politics. I'm very excited that the youths and the health science group are getting involved and in the process with the high turnout of PVC registration. But like they are also going to find out and going to realize is that PVCs do not make presidents, governors, or council members. You have to be a party member. You have to go through that whole process of delegation and being on the card. So 2023 election has already been decided as we speak. INEC is at the final. There's still some room to change candidates, but most of the primaries have happened. And we already know from that, the decision has been made on the leadership of Nigeria in 2023. It's just going to be a photo finish, a fight on the ballots next year to choose among the select group that came out for the delegates who the leader is. So for 2023, I think the election has already happened. So really, if we want to make a change, we should be thinking about 2027. So that's talking about the process. Now, also talking about the candidates. For the big parties, the four contenders, we're talking about for presidency thresholds of 100 million naira to be able to buy the forms. And we all know that apart from buying the forms, that if you attempt to run the process of primaries by sending SMS, you might end up in the primaries with no votes. So there is a logistic fit if you want to go for presidency or governor or even House of Reps to travel around the constituency, visit the constituency, make rallies. And we are all saying that apart from even buying of votes, there is a lot of money that is involved in that process. So that creates a very high barrier to get on the ballot. So I think that is something that over time we need to change. The truth about it is that we are maturing. We used to have a 2-horse race, but everybody today, even though the campaigns have not started, we see that there's traction. Even if it's just talk on social media, there's traction on the third force. So I think that's a good thing. So we're going to get into a situation where, even though there are barriers of entry in terms of cash for the large parties, they're going to have candidates who will be able to break that barrier by going into smaller platforms, Labour, Accord, STP, and be able to make a significant difference on the ballot on the election. So for me, I'm really excited about the prospects. I always try to differentiate between the process, the players. When we try, so just use one brush to whip everybody out. I think the delegate process is what it is, and it's also a fallout of what we are seeing with voters buying. What is the category of people that end up as delegates? And for something as, if you are among an electoral college of 2,000, 3,000 people that wants to choose who will lead us for the next 4 years, how much can you collect to make that choice? For the responsibility is great. So $2,000, $3,000, $10,000, setting should not be a price. So it's just that we're not recruiting the right set of people as delegates. And that's why we are getting this situation where you can also buy delegates and pay cash politics. So for me, it's we are where we are. We're playing money politics now. But I'm sure that as the team progresses, we'll get better people get involved in the political process, and more credible candidates will come through.
Well, thank you, Mr. Sam Aiboni. Now, of course, before we went to our correspondent in Osogbo, the Osun State capital, Dr. Emeka Kalu was addressing his assessment of INEC so far, and I'm just going to take, that question again when I was talking about INEC appearing to focus on the minor at the expense of the major. Of course, yesterday it emerged that the CVR registration would be extended or would end at on July the 31st. That's a few weeks, maybe 2 weeks from today. And there was it doesn't appear as though there was any enforcement of COVID-19 restrictions or guidelines. And we also heard from the incumbent governor of Osun State that he has heard of incidents where the BIVAS machines were not functioning, properly in some areas. Now, going by those 3 points, I'd just like you to carry on with what you were saying about your assessment of INEC's performance so far.
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, the INEC is centering on the things that they feel is paramount to what they're doing, or to have a successful election completed. But, however, they are not thinking about the bigger picture. They're not thinking outside the box, that the people who are actually voting here are in the middle of problem, crisis coming upon them. Because after the election, what is going to happen to the people? When you get contacted with COVID, it's a very big blow, it's a very big problem. People are going to die. And how can the government manage such deaths? Those are supposed to be put into perspectives, because these are paramount to, security of life and property. But when those things are not being put into perspective, that means the INEC is lacking on the other hand. Then, given to the fact that the beavers are not working, means or brings some area of incompetence to INEC, because these are supposed to have been done prior to now. I remember when they apportioned the fact that the INEC, we are going to digital electioneering. So this has supposed to have been done by now. I've never seen a nation that it takes lengthy years to get electronic voting going, even though we say Nigeria is not set because we don't have steady electricity. Still, that does not mean that we cannot have all these things. So we have expertise on ITs here in this country. We have expertise. We have engineers, electrical engineers. We have expertise on different fields. That people who has the credibility and has what it takes to get these things going are there. But because the funding that is apportioned to these things, most of the monies are being siphoned into private pockets. They're not reaching out to where they need to go. That's why we have all these things that are not working properly. Or they say, oh no, we don't have satellite. Oh no, these are not working. No, it's because the monies that has been apportioned to this, we are not used appropriately. I'll say this without fear or no favor, because these guys are doing this continually at the detriment of the electorate. So this needs to be corrected for even the youths to come up to have a say in this country. All these things needs to be taken care of. It is not going to be business as usual, whereby you say, look, we are playing money politics. People come in and say, listen, you have to buy a phone for 100 million. That's nonsense as far as I'm concerned. You're not creating a room for a growing nation like Nigeria to integrate your youths into the system. That's nonsense. So what I'm saying here is that the INEC have lacked lots and lots of efficiencies in what they do. Okay? They need to rethink and go back and put themselves together so that they can come up better in 2023 election. So that we have a formidable election that when people from the international world look at Nigeria, they will go, oh, wow, things are going better in this country. And then we have a good and credible election, not just what is happening now. With what is going on today, I will tell you, we are going to be a laughingstock all over the world. I can tell you that. I walk in the street of New York and I know what people, or the kind of things people say about our country. Not because Nigeria is not great. Nigeria is great. We have great men and women in this country. And after all, I tell you, even in America today, you have the greatest doctors are Nigerians. The greatest engineers who are into integration are Nigerians. The greatest people who even report, they are from Nigeria. So why can't we do the same thing here in our own nation? Just because we have bad leadership. But I pray 2023, I'm asking God to bring that Messiah, Atiku Abubakar, to take precedent and lead us.
All right, we're talking about Austrian elections here, Dr. Kalu. Well, be that as it may, still talking about what Mr. Aiboni mentioned on youth participation in politics. Now, Dr. Obire, does a high number of voter registration necessarily translate into high voter turnout in terms of votes, as it were? If you remember, in the Ekiti elections, we had 900,000 plus valid votes. And of course, the main decider was just a little over 300 plus, I believe, for the election. So if you look at the disparity in that regard, are we likely to see that in Osun and even going into the next year's elections in 2023, you think?
Yeah, in Ekiti, during Ekiti election, we have about 40% of the registered voters who participated in that election. Now, in Osun State, we have 1.9 million. We have 1.9 million people, approximately, registered voters. Now, the registration card does not transmit into voting, except the holders of these cards participated in an election. Now, we have the issue of beavers that are being complained about not functioning in some places. If we have our technologies in place and the people see that if they go out to vote, they will, in no distance time, they will be done with the exercise and go back home. Certainly, more people will want to exercise their rights by voting. And also, security was also an issue concerning the low turnout in Osun State, because they were not sure whether the security was going to be well taken care of. But yes, like what we saw, the security was taken care of. there were no issues of violence, there were no issues of shootings or this or that compared to previous elections. So, and in Osun today, we are still seeing that the electioneering process, the voting is going on peacefully. So people are actually exercising their franchise. But what will cause low voting today will be probably the issues of beavers or people who registered and have not been able to get their PVC to exercise their franchise, their right to vote. So, if going by the technology that is in place, which has brought about some level of credibility to the electoral process, and the people are able to access these beavers, and the beavers machine functions in time, then we will have more turnouts or more votes than we saw in Ekiti State.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. O'diakpo. We still have Mr. Aiboni with us in studio, and my next question goes to you. There are reports that EFCC has been seen, on ground, trying to make sure no vote buying is going on. You also have reports that celebrity Davido is saying that people are rejecting money left and right. But international observers, our reporters, and local observers are saying that this is happening. So I'm just wondering what your assessment is of EFCC's performance or the lack thereof during this election, Osun election so far.
Well, I've been generous to government agencies till now, INEC, but I don't think I would extend my generosity to EFCC. Now, for me, when we talk about security in Nigeria, it's a very serious issue, but sometimes it comes out very comic. In the last few days, the Nigerian police force has been able to deploy 21,000 troops. We have seen the helicopters fly. We hear that there are gunboats that have been deployed. You understand? Now, once it comes to elections and some activities in Nigeria, you see the Nigerian military might. You understand? NSAT protesters at the toll gate got a piece of the strength of the Nigerian army. You understand? But when it comes to some other issues, you now begin to worry, where is that bravado? You understand? Now, the EFCC seems to be so helpless. You understand? They cannot find anybody that is buying votes or not buying votes. We're just coming out of Kuje. When I first got a WhatsApp message that there was an attack in Kuje, if I had driven to Ikeja, got on a private jet, I would have arrived Kuje in time to take pictures of the attack on the Kuje prison. You understand? Now, we know that there are military men stationed in Abuja. We know that prison installations have been broken. We know that Kuje houses Boko Haram suspects. How could we have that kind of audacity of attack? You understand? Now, with the 21,000, that's just police deployed in Osogbo and Osun State. Between them and EFCC, they cannot get one person who gave bribe and it's just, so for me, it's I don't understand. I don't understand it. I don't know whether it's the explanation for me beats me. Is it incompetence? Is it collusion with the government? Is it not being motivated? Is it not? Because for me, it doesn't just add up. It doesn't add up. We have seen vans, we have seen police cars, we have seen flights of helicopters, we have seen gunboats, and in all that, even our correspondents that was just there, not doing police work, has been able to spot somebody in the booth giving a crowd of people, showing them, and the whole EFCC organization, and the whole police organization, and the whole government organization cannot even catch one person and prosecute one person for vote buying. No, it's sad.
Obviously, a lot still needs to be done on that. Very good. All that has been noted. We're still looking at the Osun governorship elections. We'll be right back after this break. Stay with us.
I don't blame them 100%. Why?
The Dangote Group stands at the forefront of African enterprise. Since 1978, we've touched the lives of millions of people by meeting their basic needs. Our belief in the promise of Africa has taken us into 14 African countries, with substantial investments that will propel the continent towards greater prosperity, promising jobs, improved standards of living, and economic growth. Dangote, for an empowered Africa.
Think that's crazy? Crazy is having a job and a boss like mine.
Try practicing the dance routine and tell me what's more challenging.
Challenge. Being a single mother no be beans, my dear. That's why anytime I need that energy, Amber Energy drink day for me.
Stimulate the energy in you.
We started our journey over 7 years ago, connecting travelers to their favorite destinations. Since then, we've revolutionized how we want our passengers to feel while flying. That is why we've introduced our brand new Embraer 195E2 aircraft.
Everyone has a face they need to see.
We are on a mission to add new destinations to our ever-increasing fleet. Our Boeing 777 will take you on an international journey. Mumbai, Guangzhou, London, Johannesburg. And now, Airpeace is adding a new destination, Dubai.
If you're gonna fly, then you should fly with us on Airpeace.
Airpeace flies you from all our domestic routes to Dubai from Lagos at no additional cost.
On Airpeace.
The Zenith Better Life promo is back, and it's bigger and better. You could be one of 20 lucky customers to win 150,000 Naira every 2 weeks from now till January 31st, 2023. To qualify, simply open a Zenith Bank account and maintain a minimum balance of 5,000 Naira. For more information, visit www.zenithbank.com/betterlife. Zenith Bank, in your best interest.
It's good to have you back on this special focus on the Osun Governorship Forum. Of course, we've still got a panel of discussants here in the studio in Lagos and, of course, in Abuja as well. I'm going to go to Dr. Kalu. Earlier on, before we came on, we talked about the issue of the anomalies regarding this electioneering process. But let's take a look at the parties themselves. You know, you're a member of PDP, of course. Are they doing enough on voter education and the need to, not to align themselves on voter buying or vote buying or what you might say, and all these other challenges, as it were?
Well, if we look at this holistically, I can tell you that we are not, as party, we are not doing enough on voters' education, because for us to have a successful election or campaign or whatever you may call it, we have to have voters' education that trickles down to the ward. That even though anybody, even at the interior jungle, understands what they are going to face, what they are going to do, what they're expected to do, the way they're expected to react to things. But we don't do it. All we do here is just to go out there and say, listen, vote for me, do the... No, that's not the proper way of campaigning or doing electioneering. You need to educate your people on, this is the sequence that I want you to go. I want you guys to not taking money from anybody.
If I may come in, and Dr. Kalu, there is one thing about voter education and sincerity of interest, of purpose, by the politicians themselves. So where do we draw the line? Where do we converge?
Well, the politicians themselves are part of the issue. I understand. They're part of the problem because they believe that without money they cannot be elected. But we need to, eliminate this completely, because it's not so. People are supposed to be voted because of competency and not because of money. When you do money politics, that means you cannot get a good thing. You cannot get a good thing in the office. You're using your own money now to, you're collecting money to vote in something that is going to kill you. So that's not what or how electioneering should be done. It should be the other way around. It should be voting someone because he has capacity, he has the knowledge, he has all the technical know-how to govern, to do things for his people. And someone with antecedent, someone has been tested. If not tested, someone that has a threshold of doing things right, correctly, and can be able to deliver for his people. And that's what governance is all about. People look at governance as a place of entrepreneurship where they just go in and make money. That's not what it's supposed to be, and that's actually what is perpetuating to this vote buying, because people are doing election do or die to get into that office because they believe that it's an avenue to make money. It is not. You going into an office is to go and serve people. To go and serve people means you are the servant. People are looking up to you to do something for them, not to go there and enrich yourselves. I've seen in this country that people who had nothing and entered into politics, they become billionaires overnight. It's absolutely bizarre. I'm telling you that. That is not right. So it is wrong before God and man to practice that kind of democracy. We are saying, oh no, we are verging into the democracy. We are gradually trying to get it. I understand that. How long will it take us to get it? There are other countries who are also into democracy. They're doing well more than us. Okay, we started with Dubai. When Dubai was coming up, Nigeria was already up there, both by infrastructural development and every other thing. Today, where is Dubai? Dubai is up there, Nigeria is still down. Come on, what are we saying here? So we can get these things done if we choose within ourselves to do it right. One, with the electorate. Two, with the people who are concerned, who are ready, that they say they want to lead. You have to lead by example.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kalu. Now we'll take this over to Abuja with Dr. O'diakpo. Thank you so much for standing by the way. And now, of course, earlier you mentioned that the votes are being cast based on the highest bidder and popularity, and not based on capacity or credibility. But I'm wondering, if things were reversed, based on what you saw in the recent series of debates amongst the candidates for the Osun governorship election, who were you impressed by and who were you unbothered by?
Well, that is a very good question, but from what we saw during the debates, you can see that they were more of attacking personalities than telling the people what they are bringing to the table. They are more of trying their best to pull down the other candidates than coming on the table to say, Osun, this is our problem. Osun has a GDP of about 7 billion and with 4.7 million people. And as I talk to you, Osun State debt is way above 180 billion. If you share that among the populations, that tells you that every citizen of Osun State is owing about 30-something thousand naira. And it doesn't make sense. Somebody needs to come up and say, look, this is where we are. This is the reality of things. There are no infrastructure. There are no, the economy is as shamble as anything. But if you elect me as governor, this is what I want to do to tackle this area. This is what I want to do to tackle this area. This is what I want to do to tackle this area. This is what I expected to see during that debate. But unfortunately, none of them. Unfortunately, they were more concerned about attacking each other. They were more concerned about giving promises that are not realistic. And yes, we have a few of them who actually came. We have the SDP man. We have the Labour Party candidate. We have the, is it Abga or so? There were about 4 of them that were on the stage from the one I actually watched. But from the entire debate system that happened that day, I did not see people who are prepared. Honestly, I did not see people who are prepared to want to do something out of the ordinary for the people. They keep repeating the same thing that they are talking about. You want to drive the economy. How are you going to drive the economy? You want to bring in foreign investors. You are telling us how connected you are. I don't understand this. So these are the issues. These are the issues. And these problems, they trickle down to the political party where there is no internal democracy. Because if there is internal democracy, then we'll be able to get the right people to come on board. The people who will not want to spend the little resources they have because they want to serve, but because they have the capacity and the technical know-how to want to serve their people and drive their economy so that everything will trickle down where every family will be at the table. But no, it is not so. What I saw during the debate, the honest truth is, I did not see any of them coming up with a realistic solution to the present problem of Osun State. It goes beyond telling the people, I have done this, I have done that, I want to do. No, you need to tell us. You need to come up, and the times have changed now. We need to come up and say, look, this is how I will tackle education. Then people will look at you and say, these are the problem of education. First, you list the problem. 2, you need to tell us what caused the problem. Then tell us how you're going to stop that, what caused the problem. Then tell us how you are going to progress from there to make it a reality. You don't just come on a debate platform and start telling people what they want to hear. No.
Going to come to Mr. Aiboni. Talking about INEC, despite the issues we've seen so far, the challenges, as it were, it is still being praised for generally conducting a peaceful election, whether it's in Ekiti and, of course, what we're seeing ongoing in Osun State without any major incident, as it were. So how does one leverage on that going forward into next year's elections, Mr. Aiboni?
Okay, well, I think on a scale of 1 to 10, INEC is performing between 6 and 7 and doing very well. And for me, I think as an organization, they have continuously improved, and it's something that we should commend them for doing. But I think a lot more areas where they can do better. For one, I don't see why I can walk into a bank on Monday morning and get an ATM card and have access to my money same day, and it takes forever to get a permanent voter's card. So I think that whole process of permanent voters' cards should be revisited and should be made a lot more efficient. With regards to the continuous voters registration, yes, they already have the technology, they already have an online database, and I think they need to look at how they can make it a little more friendly. I understand that because of the integrity of the process and controls, but like any other organization, you need to be focused on the customer, who is the voter, and it should make life easy for the voter. So I really think that that's an area that they should look at, the process of issuance of voter registration card, the whole voting process. Like I said to you, very early this morning, I did the voting for the NBA president. Yes, you can say it's a smaller population, it's a lower poll, but we know it's possible. So I think that's an area that I think they need to look at. But so far, so good with regards the voting process, because we were coming from a place of where, incident forms, you didn't even know who the agents at the polling units just used to allocate voters to themselves. They just share and write. Then by the time it gets to collation center, there's another magic at the collation center. Then by the time it gets to state collation, so all that is gone. And you can see that is why the violence is also reducing, because the process of moving things from one polling unit to collation centers, that was where fights and where many are killing. So all that is gone, because really, if you went into a polling booth now, that accreditation is electronic, no matter of force or bullying, you won't be able to get somebody who doesn't have a permanent voter's card to get accredited to vote. So that's why the only option they have is to buy votes. So I think in terms of the electoral process, we need to commend them for where they are going. Now, in terms of, so what we have now is to address the soft issues. Like, why are we in a situation where we are able to buy votes, and how do we improve the quality of the discussion around voters' education? So I think everybody is a stakeholder in that part. And I'll be looking at my colleagues in the traditional media. This is where you need to come in. Because I'm going to knock the traditional, conventional media, especially the editors. Why are we talking about same-faith ticket? Nigeria is technically insolvent. The country is broke. We are in that state of affairs doesn't come out. You understand? We're talking about governorship. We're talking about buying of votes. Osun is bankrupt. We need somebody who is a business recovery expert to take over the reins of affairs. It is technically, that state is technically bankrupt.
Very well said. I'm so sorry to interrupt, Mr. Sam Aiboni. We appreciate your perspective, of course. But we right now, as the Osun electorates decide who becomes the next governor of the state, the Center for Democracy and Development says they've spotted issues of electoral offences, with party agents campaigning and canvassing for votes across the local government areas of the state. Arise correspondent Mary Chinda joins us now from Abuja. Hello, Mary. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsday. Now, please give us more perspective.
Good afternoon,
on this.
Cynthia.
Thank you so much.
Okay, well, live from the Situation Room, the Center for Democracy and Development, CDD, who just a couple of minutes ago gave the first batch of updates on the Osun elections. We understand, of course, that 21,000 security men are actually deployed for these elections, and there are at least 30 local government areas. Top of the issues being discussed here at this briefing is the issue of the bimodal voters accreditation system, BVAS, and the CDC is saying that so far the BVAS has worked accurately. INEC has been able to put a firm grips of the use of the BVAS in this particular election. 99% of the polling units visited had smooth running of the BVAS. But there is also another issue, which is the issue of electoral offences. In most of the polling units visited, at least 14 local government areas that the CDD had actually visited, they found the issue of political party agents campaigning and canvassing for votes even today, being the D-Day of the elections. Another issue that's also a cause of worry for the CDD is the issue of fake news. Up until this morning, and even right now as elections are still ongoing, there are a lot of fake news out there. Top of them is the fake news that one of the candidates, I wouldn't mention, has actually been sacked by a court today, and then CDD has found that is fake news, and that is quite worrisome for the CDD and other election observers. I'm just going to be joined now by one of the senior analysts of the CDC, Dr. Oluranti, who's actually joined us here. Good afternoon, madam.
Good afternoon.
Okay, so we're talking about, following your briefing, quite a lot has come up, but generally for the CDD, how would you rate the election process that is going on so far in Osun State?
Compared to what has happened in Ekiti State last month, I can authoritatively actually tell you that they've actually tried. And what they have on ground right now, 100%, the machines are working well, because as early as 8:30 a.m., the officials arrived as early as 8:30, and they were able to actually address the voters. And apart from that, there was actually mock accreditation. And apart from that, there was actually mock accreditation. And the level of preparedness is actually 99%, which is good for us.
Okay, so one of the issues that you're mentioning here, this press briefing, is the issue of electoral offences. Can you speak about that a bit?
All right. The issue of electoral offences by the voters, we realized that according to our reporters on the field, like in 14 local governments, out of the 30 local governments that we have in Osun State, we have people still canvassing for their candidates. And up to now, there are still some areas, or there are still some polling units that we still have banners of candidates that they've not actually been removed, which is not good, because it's not supposed to be so. All this is supposed to have been taken care of before the election.
And do we have issues of vote buying?
Not yet. We've not heard anything that has to do with vote buying for now, because...
Right. Thank you so much. That is one of the senior analysts at the Center for Democracy and Development right here in Abuja, giving a briefing about the current state of the elections and votings that are actually still ongoing in some parts of Osun State.
Mary, thank you so much for bringing us that update. We appreciate your time, as always, here on Newsday.
Indeed, you've been watching this special edition of the Osun governorship election. But just before we go, I'd like to thank our correspondents, Tokunboye Tunji, and of course, Oba Adeoye on ground. Of course, our guest in the studio, Dr. Emeka Kalu, Mr. Sam Aiboni, and of course in Abuja, Dr. O'diakpo Obire. Gentlemen, thank you for being there. I'm Ni Wilo.
And I'm Cynthia Are. Please keep it here on Arise News, and from the entire teams here in Lagos and all over the globe, goodbye, and thank you for watching.